This is the Marathon Handbook Podcast, and we are live from New York City. And get a little round of applause to prove that there's actually other humans. There we go, yeah. There we go. Not to get too self-referential here, but like when you listen to a live podcast and you don't hear an audience clapping, it's like, are they really live?
How live is it, really?
Yeah. I'm your host, Michael Doyle, and I'm joined as always by my colleagues, Katelyn, Tocci, and Alex Sear. And we have a very special show for you today. We've got two really neat guests. One is on stage with us right now. He is Bill Quinn. He is a futurist from the company TCS.
Good morning.
And we will also have in the second half, Colin Bennie, elite marathon runner, who will join us after a quick break for the show. So you get to see how the sausage is made today with the podcast. All right, so we're going to start off with Bill. Bill, you work for TCS, which is obviously, if we're all runners here, we're all familiar with TCS. They're one of the largest technology companies in the world, and they are the title sponsor of the New York City Marathon, the TCS New York City Marathon. You must be a fun guest at dinner parties because you must just like. So what's a futurist? Tell us what a futurist is.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that a futurist, we predict the future, and at dinner parties, everybody's like, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen with AI? What about my job? What should my kid major in?
Are the Jays going to win Game 7?
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
But really, we're not so much about predicting the future. We really talk about rehearsing the future. So we work with our clients, large enterprise clients, to really help them identify multiple potential scenarios and think about how they could play out in the future based on everything going on in science and technology, societal factors, geopolitical factors, and so on, and really help them plot a strategy forward. So the way I like to describe it in the context of running is, I'm kind of like a running coach. I can't predict how you're going to do on race day, but I can help you prepare for a range of possibilities. So, what if you get a cramp? What if you start, hitting the wall at, mile 23? How should you be thinking about those, asking those what if questions and getting ready for it? So kind of a similar context.
So yeah, with the marathon, what's the journey there, the starting point? How did you find yourself thinking about what's going to happen with this crazy, beautiful, wonderful event that we all do?
So it's kind of a funny journey for me. I live in Colorado, just outside of Boulder, and had spent my whole life, on my bike, mountain biking, cycling. Would run a little bit, the Boulder, knock out a 10K, but never really was serious about it. And back in 2023, TCS embarked on a project with Des Linden, two-time Olympian, Boston Marathon champion, probably somebody very familiar in this room. And we had a project with her to create a digital twin of her heart. And just to give some context to what that means, a digital twin is simply a virtual replica of a physical person, place, or thing. So you could think about digital twin of a manufacturing line or of a smart city, or in the case of Des, her heart. And we wanted to create that digital twin of her heart to really help her prepare for and optimize her training, right? So at that elite level, they're trying to squeeze out the last 1%, right? And especially at her age, she was an aging runner and was kind of getting into the latter parts of her career and was really focused on how do I train smarter, not harder. So when I saw that going on back in 2023, I just got really excited about it and kind of asked myself, could I create a digital twin of myself using commercially available technology? So I ran out and got, a smartwatch and a glucose monitor and a rest and recovery monitor and started cobbling together all of this data and trained for and ran my first ever marathon back in 2023, the TCS New York City Marathon. And then from there, it just kind of took on a life of its own. It started to, really evolve into, first of all, the project with TCS really evolved and it blossomed into what we call our Future Athlete Project. So we now have 20 athletes that are part of that project. I'm one of them. We've created digital twins of a lot of their hearts. We have them, feeding data into AI systems with their wearables to really help all of them understand how they're performing and how they can improve their performance on race day. So I've been involved with that. And then as I continued going, I really started thinking about, okay, that's great for the future of the runner. What's the future of marathons and what does that look like? And so this year I started working with our sports marketing team to really think about what does that future marathon look like? Where are there technologies that can make marathons, as I like to say, safer, smarter, and more sustainable? So yeah, that's kind of how it all unfolded. And since then, I've just gotten hooked on marathons. So I've run three additional marathons after New York, and the ball just keeps rolling. Your 50s is not the best time to take up marathoning, but we are where we are.
So we're cheating a little bit here because Bill and I met maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago and we had a longer form version of this conversation. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to ask you about, I want to take like the few things that were most interesting to me. And when I thought about the marathon of the future, one thing stood out, and it stands out even more now that I'm in New York City. And one of the things so many people talk about is how hard it is to get into marathons now, and how even these big cities almost struggle to contain the amount of runners who are doing it. So I heard, this might just be a rumor, but that New York City is gearing towards getting that record of finishers back, which I think they had, and then London took it this year, and it's at about 56,000 finishers, and we're looking to get closer to 60,000. So it seems to be bursting at the seams. What does New York City look like, marathon look like in 10 years? Do we have more athletes racing? Is there a way that we can make more people race? Is it more of an efficient process? What's going to look different in 2035?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of constraining factors. The first is just, as anybody who's run really any of these major marathons knows, there's just a bottleneck constraint to being able to have that many runners on course. But then in addition to that, there's a constraint around being able to, all the logistics that go into it, right? Where does water need to be? Where does fueling need to be? How do we get more water to those locations? All of those things. So one of the things that you and I talked a lot about, Alex, is how artificial intelligence might be able to help alleviate that problem. And I see a couple of opportunities there. The first one is how do we just get smarter about where to place people in the start corrals, right? So could we be using data from people's running data off of Strava or whatever to really get a better understanding about I know they said they were going to run a 3:30 marathon, but are they really? And should we, sort of move them up or back depending on where they are?
So I can't lie about my seat time. It's like I'm a 2:40 marathon runner for life.
Exactly.
And
So
Strava-less Michael might be NA in all marathon entries in the future.
That's right. I'm a ghost on Strava.
That's right. Yeah. Everybody's going to start taking off their smartwatches during their training runs.
Right.
So that's one area, is could we just really optimize that start? Because it's the start that becomes the biggest challenge, right? And getting everybody rolling. The other one that we talked about is really just the idea of letting AI figure out the best way to put on these marathons, right? We talked about this idea. There's a company called AlphaGo. They're owned by Google now. Done a lot of really cool AI stuff, and one of the things that really put them on the map was playing the game Go. Ancient East Asian game. It's been played for thousands of years, and Go was playing the game Alpha. They called the AI AlphaGo. It was playing the game against some of the best players in the world, and there's this move called Move 37. It was a move that was completely unanticipated. Nobody had ever seen it before. Nobody had ever thought of it before, and ended up winning the game. And so I use that story because it really illustrates how AI can think differently about how we're putting on marathons, and maybe reveal things that we had never thought of before. So those are the kinds of ways that I think artificial intelligence can really be impactful on race day, is just helping us reimagine what does the start and what are the logistics of a marathon look like.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you, Bill, I was disappointed this weekend, not in you, in something else. So there was this rumor last year at the New York City Marathon that there would be a huge announcement, and turns out that Sydney was becoming a world major marathon. This year, we parachute into New York and we hear once again, hey, there's a huge announcement. Like, oh my God, okay, it's gonna be Cape Town. Cape Town's gonna be a major marathon. The announcement was that Eliud Kipchoge was retiring. They're like, what? No, that's not what I wanted at all.
I'm so sad.
I'm so sad. And now we're sitting at this point where I thought we were going to hear of an 8th major marathon. Doesn't sound like it might happen this weekend. We talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. What cities do you think might have a major marathon in the next, let's keep it to 10 years, because I could ask you 100 years from now, but I might not even be around. So let's go next 10 years. Who are your major candidates?
So I was actually thinking about this a little bit more after we spoke. So I think Cape Town's kind of an obvious one. They obviously had a big hiccup this year, but they're going to move the marathon up to their fall, so it will be a better time of year for them to be having it. Hopefully, not have those issues. So that's kind of an obvious one. And then you start thinking, all right, where else? Well, Latin America is conspicuously absent all of a sudden. So you could imagine, maybe Mexico City, maybe Brazil, somewhere in Chile, right? So Rio, is another one. So that gets you a couple more, and then you think about, well, China is a big emerging economy, a lot going on there. Do they end up having a major? So that gets you to 10 in pretty short order. So I don't know, maybe 10, 11, something like that.
10 feels like a nice number, doesn't it? It's just, yeah. So to that, talking about AI, talking about, the ubiquitous AI, which is many things, but like talking about using artificial intelligence to help steer where this all goes. You were mentioning the hiccup in Cape Town. So Cape Town got canceled like literally the day of the race because of high winds. And thinking about how you select future marathons and how you also maybe have to change the start time, start date, location, details about a marathon. I imagine using AI to create, weather forecasting modeling and that sort of thing will become a bigger part of how we go about organizing and running marathons in the future.
Yeah, for sure. NVIDIA is actually working on creating a digital twin of the Earth. So I mentioned digital twins earlier.
Wait, what?
The whole thing.
It's NVIDIA. They need to have something to do with all their time and money.
And money, yeah.
Yeah. And the reason that they're doing that is to really study and understand and use artificial intelligence to understand climate change, right? And because climate change, there's lots of potential solutions, but it's all about trade-offs, right? You can do this thing, but there's downstream effects, and you could do this other thing, but there's downstream effects. So really being able to be smarter about how to manage climate change. But it's a good example of how you could use that same type of digital twin to do longer range predictions on weather, to get an understanding of like, do we need to, push this a day? Sort of be more predictive about what the weather's going to do. Much further out than what we're able to see today. So it's that combination of digital twin technology and artificial intelligence that could really have a positive impact there.
Yeah, I think, you guys are talking about the future of the marathon, but I would like to for you to share with our guests some of how AI is helping the actual runner with the training, because you and Alex spoke a lot about that when I was listening to the podcast. It was interesting to me also as a coach, not so happy about AI helping with training plans and such. But I did want to know how you think AI, because we don't trust all of the metrics right now that we're receiving, right? And so we kind of look at it, not maybe what the numbers say, but how the numbers progress over time. And we can use that data to help us with coaching and training and all of that. So maybe share with us how we will see this within the next 10 years or so, and how it will develop to help athletes even more with their training.
And make sure that you tell Katelyn that she's going to have a job in 10 years.
Yes, you will never go out of style. Don't worry. It is becoming a really powerful tool, right? But it's, as I like to say, trust but verify. You can't, and when I first started back in 2023, so remember, this is just a few months after OpenAI had launched ChatGPT in November of 2022, but I'm like, I'm going to use AI and I'm going to have it do my training plan and all of that. It did a pretty good job, but, I still was like going to the Marathon Handbook and getting the training plan.
Thank you for the plug,
Yeah,
Bill.
of course.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
I know how this goes. I'm a professional. But
It's from the future, guys. Come on.
Exactly. But it's getting better and better all the time, right? And one of the big challenges with it today is, I mentioned, wearing a glucose monitor and smartwatch and all these things. The way that all of that technology works today is, I like to describe it as digital twins, plural, right? So you have all of this siloed data, and it's really hard for just an amateur runner to make sense of all of that. And that's why having a coach is so valuable, because you're used to looking at data all the time, and so you can help them decipher that. But you're also like not right in the middle of it, right? You can kind of be a little bit removed from the situation and help guide them along. And I think that's always going to be a really powerful thing. But I do think artificial intelligence is going to get better at integrating that data and starting to provide information instead of data. Because what I learned is all of this information, I just got overwhelmed by it. And I kind of had to get a minor league medical degree to understand, like, what are all these 3-letter acronyms and why should I care? And so I think it can be really helpful to an amateur athlete in that regard. But like with all things AI, I think there always needs to be a human element. And I think having a human in the loop, having a human coach is always going to be really valuable, because again, they can help you understand the data in different ways. They can also just get inside your head a little bit, right? Take care of the mental part. And as we all know, there's a huge mental aspect to this crazy game of marathoning. And so I think that will always be a big part of marathon training.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to hear that.
I mean, let's be honest here, being a coach is mostly being a psychologist for your runners anyway, right? Talking them off the cliff on Saturday night, you're going to get a lot of calls tonight.
I will absolutely get some calls tonight. And out of all of the data points that you use personally, which one do you feel has helped you develop your training or improve your training? I mean, you said glucose monitor, heart rate monitor, all the things that you use.
I see you're wearing an Oura ring. This is not an official plug, but I think that's what
this
that
actually isn't. This is just a.
He's just married.
Yeah. I just
Married to the
got it.
game.
I just got it for being married. It's my little merit badge. But going back to the Oura ring, for me, it's really been rest and recovery, right? Okay. Like when I was younger, I would just and again, I didn't run a lot, but I rode, and I was just like, ride as hard as you can every single time and do it every single day, and that was just the way I did things. And so really learning how important rest and recovery is and how much that plays a part in the mix has been really revealing for me. And so that's probably the tool. I mean, you need some sort of a smartwatch to, know those basic stats. But sure, other than that, if I could only have one other, it would definitely be rest and recovery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked, you mentioned something that I thought was so innovative and wild and still prospective that I want to double click on that and ask you about this again. This two-parter. The first one was about clothing, like AI-powered clothing that would actually do what you needed to do on the fly. So the reality for most people, they show up to the marathon start line at 7 a.m., 7:30. It's like Fahrenheit. What's it?
40 degrees.
40 degrees Fahrenheit. And then as the race goes on, you end up contending with 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
We're Canadian, Alex.
Sorry.
And I, so we speak in Celsius.
We're Celsius. And so in that time, the best thing people have done has been, layering and just getting rid of their top layers. But you talked about this technology that would come down the pipe in the future, where you would have a long sleeve that gets hotter and colder based on your own biofeedback in real time. Tell us about this, because
and when it's available.
After our chat, I was like, I should have asked him about this more, because that is insane.
Yeah. So if you go look at some of the work that MIT has been doing,
it's always those guys.
I know, it's always the big brains, right?
Boston.
It's never us.
Crazy.
But they're actually working on 4D and 5D printed materials that will literally morph shape. It's crazy to watch. It's really fun to watch on YouTube. But the idea is that this clothing could be, keep you warm in the morning, right? It will have a certain form then. It will then sense that it's getting warmer, and so it will become light and airy, and the material itself actually morphs to become light and airy. And then, rainstorm comes in later on in the afternoon. It senses that it's getting wet, and it becomes hydrophobic. So, it's just a good example of how broad this technology is. It's not just, artificial intelligence. It's not just digital twins. There's a range of technologies that are coming online and converging to make all of this a reality. So that's one piece of it is that morphing clothing. But I also see the opportunity for a lot of technology to start moving into our clothing, right? So rather than wearing all of this stuff, it just, moves into our clothes and, can more accurately understand our sweat rate and, all these other things that we're trying to understand as we're training for our marathons.
My prediction, all of my predictions about New York have been wrong. But my second prediction about New York was that Nike was going to come out with this prototype that they kind of had put and slid in that World Athletics prototype page that alluded to some type of ability to shapeshift on the go, like shoes that would respond to how your foot is striking. Now, we know there's a Nike prototype, like the Alpha Fly. We don't call it the Alpha Fly 4.
You got in trouble with Sifa Hassan yesterday. You called it the Alpha Fly 4 and she corrected you.
She's like, it's the prototype.
It's just the prototype.
It's
we
the
don't
prototype.
know. Yeah.
So, and from what I asked her and I asked Connor Mance if there were many differences between the Alpha Fly 3 and this prototype, and they were like, it's a little bit lighter, but not really. So if there is this like AI tech in it, they're hiding it. I'm starting to think that no one has it out just yet. No, but is that, do you think that could happen in the near future? A shoe that can leverage AI to be better than what we have?
Yeah, I think so. And Nike's a good example. I think it was just in the last handful of days, they came out with this device, that you can hook onto your shoe, and it's the robotic thing.
The exoskeleton.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. We're apparently getting one.
Are we?
That's what I heard.
Different brand.
Okay, never mind.
Off-brand, not Nike.
I'm still gonna wear it in my next week.
I was gonna say sign me up to come run with you guys when you get that. But it's a good example of the kind of things that they're doing to really push the envelope with technology. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were working on building AI into the shoe for a couple of reasons. One is just all the data that it could collect, right? I'm sure they've thought of tons of data that I haven't thought of, but a lot of data that you could get from the shoe about exactly how your foot is falling and how you could optimize your stride, all those types of things. Mm-hmm. But then if you carry it forward and you sort of marry some of the more robotic stuff that they're doing with the artificial intelligence, could they be doing things to really optimize your stride in real time, right? So could your shoe help you correct a stride or take a faster pace, those types of things. So
could you imagine if it could help for trail running, like the different terrain that you're on?
Yeah.
So if you have a race that has a lot of different terrain, it could kind of morph into what you need. If you need it to be harder or softer, depending on that would be amazing.
I love that idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Oh, see,
we're starting a company.
Yeah.
So many startups.
Yeah, wait, no, Bill's my startup, buddy. What are you doing?
Not anymore.
What is this?
It's gonna move right in.
Come on.
So we talked about this. We sort of talked about the start of the race. Is everyone here running New York? Everyone running tomorrow? We all nervous? Yeah, we're excited. Who's run New York before?
Oh,
okay, wow, quite a few people.
A lot of repeats.
Who here thinks New York's the best marathon in the world? There you go. Told you guys. So New York, we've talked about the start. We've talked about how technology could improve the start experience. Let's paint a picture of going through this race. Let's talk about how this race could look in 10, 20, 30 years as technology, for the most part, improves the experience for us runners. So we crossed, I always butcher the name, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. We exit off of Staten Island. It's just a brief moment in Staten Island. Then you're in Brooklyn. You're running this race. You were talking to Alex a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned drones. You mentioned sort of logistics, safety, monitoring athletes, the Spectator experience. Let's paint a picture of what it's like to run the New York City Marathon and say, I'm going to say 2030, but it's like 4.5 years.
Future is coming faster than you think.
Indeed,
so maybe
in when my kid is running the New York City Marathon one day, maybe. What's the experience going to be like?
Yeah. So There will be a lot more technology. I was actually at a partner breakfast a couple of days ago. So all of the partners involved in the TCS New York City Marathon were there. And everybody's really interested in how this technology, can start positively impacting the sport. So the biggest one for me that I'm really excited about is circular hydration pods. So, when I first started running marathons, I'm a mountain biker, a cyclist. Like, you don't throw stuff on the trail. You carry everything with you. You shove it in pockets, right? Because you have the ability to do that. It's not really feasible at a marathon. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of cups on the ground, right? Mm-hmm. So there's technology that's like real today. It's just a matter of getting this at scale, which is why I'm excited about all the partners having interest in these types of things. But so imagine almost like a water balloon, right? A small water balloon. And you can grab one of these just like you would a cup. You can, pierce it and suck the water out of it and then throw it on the ground and it will biodegrade. So, no more cups. You can also ingest it. They have, designs that are based off of seaweed or derived from seaweed that allow you to ingest it. So I think Alex and I were talking when I ran Sydney a couple of months ago. And I was thinking as I was running that, I was like, what else we could do is have the fuel be the gel around the outside, right? So you're getting your carbs and your water all at the same time. So let's start another company.
Okay.
That already exists. It's called Fruit Gushers.
I was going to say, this is like something
gushers.
I really coveted in my lunchbox when I was
Yeah,
a kid. My parents wouldn't buy for me from the
So
grocery
same
store.
idea, right?
Yeah.
So that's one example of ways that this technology can really make marathons more sustainable. Other things, again, technology that's available today, it's more about just bringing it at scale, is having energy harvesting pavement. So imagine as you run over timing mats, those mats are just longer extended, and the footfall of tens of thousands of runners running over those mats are generating electricity and putting electricity back onto the grid.
Yeah, I think Schneider, who's a big energy sponsor, and they sponsor Paris, right? I think they were exploring this idea. I was reading about that in the last couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another area where, rather than being a drain on the energy grid in New York City, all of us can end up being a net positive and putting energy back onto the grid. So that's really exciting. Obviously, these are massive logistical undertakings, none more so than New York because of the logistics of, getting to the start line and going through 5 boroughs and that whole thing. So being able to create a digital twin of the race course to be able to monitor what's going on the race course, how are runners doing? Is there a runner that we're seeing that's struggling and we need to be, keeping an eye on them and maybe moving first aid towards them? Where are all of our resources, waters, gels, et cetera? Is somebody running out, especially as, races seem to be getting hotter and hotter? Really knowing where those resources are and then using drone technology to move those resources around, so you're not having to worry about how do we get, this water from A to B? We just, zoom it over. Those are all things that are, feasible, and I think we'll start to see in the years to come.
You spoke about, when you had spoken with Alex, you spoke about having the runner data so you could see if someone's having a hard time, if they would need, help or something like that. I took it to a different level, and I was thinking, maybe it's just for us big running nerds, but wouldn't it be so neat to have the elite runners information? We love stats, right? As sports lovers, we love RBIs. We want to know how many touchdowns how many passing yards this quarterback has. Imagine if we would be able to see the stats of the elite athletes as they were running the marathon.
As we're also running the marathon? You got the VR glasses and you're
that would be amazing. I'm talking as a spectator.
I was like, I'm making the excuse for why I'm having a shitty run. And then I'm like, the world record's being broken right now. This is I can't pretend the weather was hot today.
That's another level. But I was saying for us as spectators, so we could see wow, Kipchoge's heart rate is getting up there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Kipper.
Yeah, the poor
Kipper. You can see his heart rate. Oh, no.
We can see all of their data as they're going. But is that what you were referring to when you were speaking to making sure that that runners were not having any sort of medical emergency? What would you monitor?
Yeah, so that's a little different. So one of the concepts that we have is being able to basically give people a bio patch that they could put on, and that's how you would monitor their vitals throughout. But you bring up a really good point. which is this AR spectator experience.
Yeah.
And so, one of the challenges with marathons is they're not a great spectator sport, right? You see the elite runners coming and then they're gone and you're like, awesome, I wonder how they're going to do at the end, right? And
nice.
so being able to monitor, like, how is the race playing out and be able to see their stats. I agree. I think that would be really cool to be able to see their stats. And then also, if you've ever been a spectator at one of these really big races, you're watching this sea of people and you might have an app and kind of know where your loved one is or your friend. But sometimes they're like here and gone and you never quite met up with them. But to be able to have them highlighted on the course so that you could see them approaching amongst the sea of people, another way that augmented reality could be really interesting. And, AR and VR both have been these things that have like kind of had a moment and then they've dropped off and they've had a moment and dropped off. And we're really kind of starting to see a little more of a resurgence with that. Meta's been doing a lot of really interesting work with VR glasses with Ray-Ban. So I think that's something that we could see in the relatively near future as well. So.
Excellent.
Yeah. The thing I always think about when I'm running is like, Kipchoge could run this and then run this again and still probably catch me. That's such a bummer.
Oh, I was just going to say that the Meta glasses are already out there, and I've realized that if you're looking at an influencer too long and they're looking at you, they're taking a picture of you.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So wearing Oakley
You can
or Ray-Ban.
You can take actually, how do you deploy the picture right now? Because it's like these thick, the thick, like Ray-Ban looking Meta glasses. Or you can take a picture by tapping,
Winking.
Thinking.
I actually
that
heard
work?
an interview with Mark Zuckerberg recently. I was listening to a podcast, and I think it's like really micro movements that you can do with your face to get it to do certain things. I'm forgetting the details on it now, but yeah, you can do it without touching the glasses. It's pretty wild.
Nobody's safe. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of creepy.
Cool. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, very cool.
In closing, so the marathon, New York, we're gonna see maybe 60-ish thousand finishers. Attrition rate will be really, really low. Do you think that the marathon is going to see like 100,000 people in New York in like 20 years? Is that possible? Is this the sort of thing that we're going to see? Is like the continued growth of the marathon to a degree where these races are just going to be like, it's unfathomable to think, but double what they are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big question. It seems like the demand is there, certainly, right? So, I mean, if they wanted to sign up 100,000 people this year, they probably could do it, no problem.
Yeah.
But the issue is, how do we do that logistically? And so when that's going to happen, how exactly it's going to unfold, I can't say for certain. But I do think we're going to start to see an acceleration of this technology because they're trying to think about how do we make these races more accessible to more people.
Actually, I got a final one. Give me a prediction on Alex Sears' debut marathon time.
Oh.
Time?
Because Alex has never run a marathon before. What are you going to run out, Alex?
Wait, are you asking me or are you asking Bill?
I'm asking Bill.
Because Bill knows Bill's just like
Don't,
looking.
you know what? Don't say it. You can just send me the text afterwards.
Okay.
Wait, no. I want to
talk
know.
later.
No.
Exactly.
We'll talk later.
No, I want to
You
know.
don't get to know Alex. Sorry.
Bill doesn't know my personal bet. He's just looking at me and guessing, which
That's
is
right. He's
petrifying.
like,
I'm
just
like-
say like
He's calculating.
258. No.
3:15. Hey, I'm trying to because I know it's going to be crazy fast, but I'm not trying to make you be like, oh, you should have run with Kipchoge because you could have beat him.
Yeah, no.
Let's see. I'm going to say 2:30.
2:30.
Sorry.
I will try to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Alex and I were talking yesterday about one day him running a marathon, and it's coming soon. So anyway, thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. We're going to have an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of the pod to both of our guests. So let that ruminate right now, and you can ask some questions to Bill afterwards. We're going to take a quick break for the show. It's like a 2-minute pause, and then we're going to be back with our second guest, Colin Bennie. We'll be right back.
Thanks. That's great.
And we're back, and I am not sure if we actually play the intro music when we come back from a break, but we did just there.
It sounded weird. I was like, I don't know if this is a mid-show thing.
I don't think we do.
But we did this time.
We did this time.
And I kind of liked it, so
Yeah, me
maybe
too.
this is a little like modification we'll do. Okay, so we're back. We've got our second guest up here. He is Colin Bennie. He is a native of Massachusetts, and we just discovered a Red Sox fan, but that's okay. He's also a 2:09 marathon runner. He ran the New York City Marathon last year and did quite well. So we're going to pick his brain all about how the heck you like basically even split New York last year. I noticed. I was studying the splits and I was like, my God, how the heck did you do that? Because it's really hard to do in New York because of the course. And you've developed a really like a beautiful marathon running career thus far. You're 30 years old, so you've got all kinds of time in your future. You and Alex are contemporaries.
I mean, contemporaries is generous. We're the same age.
Hey, still counts.
So let's start off by talking about why the marathon. It's not necessarily a foregone conclusion for a talented high school, college track athlete, cross country runner. You went to Syracuse. Go Orange, right?
Yes.
I got that one right? Okay, good. Did you run with Justin Knight? He's a contemporary of, he's a fellow Canadian, Justin Knight.
Yeah. We overlapped. I was at Syracuse all 4 years that he was there.
Most polite person I've ever interviewed in my life. So you pivoted into the marathon. That's not something I imagine many of your all of your contemporaries did. Why the marathon?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think I would say in a perfect world, I would have been a 1500 guy for my entire life. That seems like a lot more fun. No, but I mean, there was always something about the approach to marathon training that really clicked with me. I found myself drawn towards the consistency of it. Just training is a lot more about getting out there, getting days one after the next, making sure your workouts are all good, but nothing that really kind of drops jaws necessarily. And yeah, I mean, the first few I had went quite well, and I feel like that also helps, right? You know, you kind of if you come out of your first few marathons feeling like, okay, this is something that actually works, then you're definitely you're in deep at that point. And since then, it's really kind of just continued to be something that I've grown to love.
Looking at your performances, you've been remarkably consistent, and you seem to really know how to run a nice, even race. That's kind of the secret sauce and the big mystery, I think. It's one of the questions we get from runners of all ability levels most consistently, which is just like, how do I execute the last 10K of this thing? It's really, really hard, especially in a course like New York, not to freak everybody out, but New York, the last 10K in New York is a real grind.
It is, yeah. Sneaky for sure.
So what's the approach like? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of trust in your training and making sure that even if it's tough that you do run your race on the day. I mean, it's really easy to sort of get sucked into a crowd of 60,000 people and see a few people who are running in front of you and think, oh, maybe I should go catch up with them, even especially if it's a big group. For my races, obviously, I'm in a slightly smaller pack, and I feel like at times there's more of an impetus to go with the group to cover these moves. But I think sort of I've found that mentally and ultimately sort of physically in the races, it does pay dividends to sort of make sure that I run my race more than anyone else's. And I think the marathon is this just tricky thing because the first 20 miles usually feel pretty good for most people. And so you can be a little bit fast in the first 20 thinking this still is great. And then, as you said, that last 10K, you can just be a bear. And so sometimes you got to kind of take that moment and be even a little bit more conservative in the first 20 miles, which feels like a long time to wait.
Yeah.
Every marathon, every race, you learn something, right? So you ran New York City last year. It went really, really well. What are you going to do differently this year? Now that you know the course, now that you ran the race and you want to have a better race, what are you going to do?
I think I'm just going to be a little more mentally prepared for that last 10K.
Okay.
I feel like I didn't fully appreciate what coming up the outside of the park was going to be like. I'd run around the park a little bit the days leading into it. watched the race many times, but actually sort of getting out there, there's a lot more respect for the climb coming up the outside of the park. And I think obviously it helped to have last year go pretty well, but I feel like it gives me confidence to know where I can attack for situations like that. And I feel like running the right race, which that's the plan tomorrow, is going to be running the right race for me. I feel like I'm going to set myself up well to sort of get into the park and be ready to roll for the last little bit.
So save energy for the end. That's
save
what
energy
you're
for the
telling.
end.
Okay,
Yeah,
you guys hearing that?
Yeah.
So, Colin, you and I are the same age. We probably came up in the sport at around the same time. And growing up into it, I kind of had a perception, just being a fan of the sport, that in the marathon, especially, there were the East Africans, and then there was everybody else. And I've noticed something this fall, and I'm curious to hear your take as someone who's right into it, that it seems like there is a divergence of talent, and that nowadays when you watch a marathon unfold, it's not so sure that the top 10 athletes are going to be from Kenya and Ethiopia. Kind of makes the race more exciting because you don't really know who's going to win. World Championships, we've had podium finishers kind of from everywhere. And then recently, Conor Mantz setting the new American record and being a serious threat in the minds of the East Africans who tend to dominate usually. How does that resonate with you? Do you feel like there's an absence of that barrier? Does that change the feeling of what you think you can do and who you can compete with?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think the beauty of running and something that, probably was the case even for the last 10, 15 years for a lot of runners in my same position was, there's always this moment of any day could be my day. And so you thought there was a chance. It is a lot easier to really believe that when you see other people actually do it. And I feel as though there's no doubt in the last 3-4 years, especially led by Mantz and Young and CJ Albertson and other Brooks guy, it's like you see these guys who are doing things that were just sort of like that jaw-dropping back 8 years ago. And so now we have a new American record. Now we have guys who are competing for the podium. Now we have a number of guys who are running sub 209 when 209 was kind of the gold standard for a decade there. And I think that does just sort of help make you feel like you can take that next step even a little bit more. And so whether or not it's, the training has changed for us and we feel that, that sort of allowed us to be more competitive, or if, it just took a few guys having really good days to give us that sort of confidence in ourselves to go out and execute on it. It's a little bit of a toss-up in my head, but either way, you are absolutely right. I feel like we're more competitive now, and I'm excited to see how it plays out tomorrow.
And as for you, what motivates you beyond New York? Because this weekend's about New York, but after that, I feel like we're in a time where marathoners can be motivated by a bunch of different things. Are you a majors guy? Like you're going to do all the majors and do them well? Or are you more so eyeing, say, championship style races like Olympics, world champs? Or alternatively, are you interested in these more startup-y type races? I'm thinking about the Marathon Project that happens in Arizona, or even other races that aren't majors, but that are doing a whole lot to make the elite athlete experience really, really good. Like the Valencia Marathon that I think offers $1 million for a world record. Is that what it is?
They confirmed that it's €1 million. So I don't know what the US dollar euro conversion is right now.
$6 million Canadian dollars.
That's right, it is, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, they're putting, if you feel like running a 159 in December, you could just double up this fall.
Might as well, right? Going to the holidays, a nice little paycheck. So
yeah. So yeah. What are you because you've done Boston, you've done New York. Are you chasing the majors experience, or is it fastest course you can find, or is it something else?
As for the last few years, it definitely has been more geared towards the majors and just sort of competing. I mean, I feel like the majors is the best stage for competition. You're going to find some of the best talent in the world. And that's something that is definitely meaningful to me in my career at this point, just sort of seeing how I stack up against the best runners that I can sort of toe the line with. there's always a draw to go run as fast as possible. New York, Boston aren't exactly the sort of most ideal courses to do that on. Obviously,
you
guys
choose hard courses.
Yeah,
you choose really hard courses.
Man likes hills.
Yeah, it's clear.
you can run really fast on Boston. It just hasn't quite gone for me as well as I would have wanted it to. But yeah, I would say at some point, I want to get back to a flatter, faster course. In terms of sort of how championship style versus the startup kind of races. I love the fact that Marathon Project is trying to put on this event that is sort of caters to elites, but also gives a lot of people who want the opportunity to sort of also see what an elite experience is like. They can do that and have the opportunity to run a race that is sort of built around them being as sort of successful in their execution as possible. So, I tend to be a little bit picky with my marathons. I feel like I haven't been able to ever toe the waters of more than 2 a year. And I think I'm comfortable with that, but it's hard to get away from the majors at this point. And then, putting on a USA vest at some point is, I think that's the goal for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
I imagine. Yeah. So you haven't texted CJ Albertson and said like, how do I run 6 marathons in 1 year?
I think at this point he makes it look so easy. He feels like it comes so easy to him, or it's just, it's natural to him that he would just go, well, you just do it then. And I can't, that doesn't work for me, I guess. So, but I'm comfortable with that. I like CJ letting him.
I was going to say, I think he is the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
He is a special case. I think it's totally okay to only run 2 marathons a year.
So top 2 or 3 that you like on your bucket list that you have to run?
Oh, we start throwing out up to 10 majors in the next few years. All of a sudden, you're starting to name some cities I didn't even think about. But having seen what World Champs was like in Tokyo, knowing that is a major that a lot of people sort of want to get into, and it would be an incredible experience to get over there. I feel like that's got to be on my list.
Okay.
I still haven't done Chicago yet too, and I feel like that's another one. I feel like getting all the North American majors ticked off would
to get your PR in Chicago.
Yes,
maybe,
exactly. Yeah, that could be
nice.
that could be the
That could
fast
be
one. So so I think those 2 are probably the top 2 in my head.
So small alteration to Katelyn's question, and I'm sorry in advance because this turns out to be a Bill from the future question, but we're going to ask it to you because you're up here. What's the most prestigious marathon for an elite athlete in 10 years? What do you think? And the question comes from, I wonder if in 2 or 3 Olympic cycles, it's going to be all about the Olympics, or if the lore of Boston and New York keeps growing and they become the race that everybody wants to do, or Valencia triples the prize pot and everyone goes there. Do you have any thoughts about that? Like which marathon will rise to the surface in about a decade's time?
And you're thinking about this from the perspective like of the elite athlete or of everyone?
I'll ask you as an elite athlete because that's your reality, but also if you have thoughts about for the general athlete too. Yeah.
I would be shocked if it ever becomes something other than the Olympics, I think. I feel like the Olympics is just sort of, there's something special about being able to time sort of the peak performance of your career with this once every 4-year event. And the fact that it already is as challenging as it is to make an Olympic team, I feel like being able to like that show up on the day and win a medal against the best 3 athletes from every country in the world is like, I would be personally, that's my thought, is I don't think I would ever think of anything as higher than that in terms of, the gold standard. That being said, a giant prize pot is very attractive for a lot of elites, so it's hard to not do that. But I think sort of alternatively, events like New York, and one of the things about running marathons at all, or just even just running competitively, that's kind of a beautiful thing. Is like I run the same race that 59,999 other people will
of
tomorrow.
Your closest friends.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is pretty, I think that there's something there that is a very sort of different feel than the Olympics or any of those sort of super specialized fields. I think there's being able to sort of share the experience and have so many people watch and cheer and get to do the same thing adds a little something. So yeah.
Do you take the finisher's medal?
I do take the finisher's medal. Got it.
keep-
Yeah.
you
I
keep 'em?
got a
hold
nice
on to them?
collection of medals at this point.
There are runners who don't take a finisher's medal.
Well, I don't know. It's, like I think some people just, perhaps maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the only one here, but I think you don't really think of elite athletes and finishers medals, but it's the same thing, right? Like you're finishing the marathon. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
When we spoke to Kipchoge yesterday, he said to us that one of the most exciting things about tomorrow is that he's going to get his 6-star medal. He said that.
He was pretty
so I was
pumped
like,
about
whoa,
that.
really?
I mean, it's the only reason why he's here, really.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
what you
like,
want.
I got to
your
get this
6-star.
damn
So
thing done.
Even Kipchoge wants his 6-star medal.
Yeah.
That
Elite
was
runners,
amazing.
they're just like us, you know?
Now, another thing about Kipchoge, question to turn to you here is, Kipchoge said to us he had no plan tomorrow. He doesn't have a race plan. He doesn't study the course.
Study the course.
He's just like, I'm just going to go out and he's like, I'm just going to go and run free. And it's like, it just sounds so beautiful for him. It's just like, just going to go
so
and run
nice
free and
and
it's
ideal.
all going to work out. It's going to be great. And for him, it does. What's your approach? Are you, because we'll talk a little bit about your day job in a minute here, because you're deep into analytics. Are you somebody who's analyzing the course in advance, looking at the course profile, breaking it down by mile, trying to figure out your strategy, like really focused on splits and pacing and that sort of thing? Or is it more of a Kipchogean approach?
Yeah, I would say that my go-to approach is looking at the course profile. If you can get on the course, obviously that's a huge thing to be able to see it sort of in person, but just trying to identify the places that are going to be the biggest challenges. I think with the marathon and sort of racing in a championship style, racing for place, the way, I'll find myself tomorrow sometimes going into it with the Kipchoge approach of run free. No plan is the best way to do it because you don't really know how it's going to play out. It could be slow and people pick it up, or guys could just go right from the gun and just sort of take it like incredibly fast. And then it does come down to sort of totally executing your own race. So yes, I really try to do my best to figure out what I think are going to be the spots that I really need to stay engaged with the race, sort of check in with myself to make sure I'm not overdoing it, and also be able to pat myself on the back when I get through it and know that there's, one more hard section of the course down and I can sort of focus on the next few.
So other than the last 10K, what are those spots that you've picked out for tomorrow? So everyone here, take notes.
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I think another one, the Queensboro Bridge is definitely, I think, sneaky tough too. Also just because it's quiet, it just gets quiet up there. You're sort of out there on your own. If you're running with a group, that's great, but you don't have the energy of the fans. And then I think, honestly, there's not really too many easy parts in marathons, right? But so it's hard to.
You're freaking our audience out here. Everyone just went very silent for a second. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's the why we do it, though, right? It's because we know it's hard and we know it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, hard things. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the bridges and the finish are really kind of the spots that I really think about. The rest of it, it's hard, but it's all hard stuff that we've all done, 100 times at this point in the last 4 months to get ready for this thing.
I need to figure something out. This has bugged me for months. I know Michael wants to get into your job, and it's going to be relevant. The job will be relevant. You're the exact person that I want to ask. You work in data analytics. We'll get more into that, but this is why you're the perfect person for this question that I've been trying to plant on someone in my life, and no one's willing to answer it. So good luck.
Get ready.
There seems to be this thing where beginning runners and intermediate runners tend to really glean from their wearables. They have, the sleep score, they have the Apple Watch, they get a whole lot of data. Like we talked about this with Bill just earlier. There's a lot of valuable data that they can get and use. And then even in my contemporaries, and I'm not at your level, I'm a 2:30 marathoner in 5 years. So this is about my level.
According to our Futurist.
According
it's gotta be accurate.
According to Bill. Yeah. So no one cares all that much about wearables data. We're like kind of aware of it. We kind of know that maybe we're sleeping well or not so well. I don't know my HRV. I don't know my vertical oscillation.
You don't know your HRV?
I don't know my
come
HRV.
on.
I don't know my HRV. And now I'm hearing you talk about the course, you're thinking about it kind of more from like a holistic place, just like Kipchoge is. And I see this, it's so common through elite athletes. Intuitively should be the opposite, right? Beginner runners shouldn't, you'd think, shouldn't really think about any of that. And then elite athletes should be completely dialed into the analytics. But it seems to be this like weird inverse correlation. Have you noticed that? And if so, like, why do you think that is?
It's a great question. I think there are moments, especially, I mean, as you're getting into it, I think, you know, when you think about some of the Strava graphs or anything like that, and, you know, Garmin, there's something really nice if you get to see this like upward trend that sort of actually allows you to visualize your progress. Or, you know, I guess if you're thinking about like your heart rate, like I guess if your resting heart rate's going down, that's kind of something that gives you a sort of a good feather in your cap of like, oh yeah, I'm making progress. I'm fitter. Maybe I performed a little bit better doing this than I did a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. But yeah, no, it is a good question. I think, I mean, as you point out, I think sometimes there's a little bit of, you know, to what Bill said earlier about trust but verify. I think sometimes there's still a little bit of a lack of trust in terms of how accurate they are. Or I think at times too, also as Bill pointed out, it's like to be able to interpret and really use it well, all that data that you're getting, sometimes you do need to have like a really good scientific background to understand exactly sort of what that means for your training or what it should. I think a lot of people, myself included, again, this is sort of goes back to an earlier conversation, right? It's like, I still have a coach and I just let him tell me what to do and I trust him. And, you know, if he's looking at that information and letting it inform his decisions, that's great. I'm glad that he has that available, but I do think that, you know, for a lot of us, you know, I have the luxury of not needing to sort of dive into it.
You don't
myself.
have to worry about it.
I don't have to
Someone's
worry
going
about
to do
it.
it for you.
Yeah, someone's doing it for me.
That's
so I
great.
think sometimes if you're doing it alone, then maybe you are a little bit more like, okay, what can I pick up on this? How can I get the signal through the noise here?
And we have so much data and we can look at it and we can analyze it. But at the end of the day, I think it really boils down to how do I feel today?
Yes, absolutely. Right. I mean,
how do I feel?
Yeah.
No. And that's one of the tough things about running too, right? Yeah. You know, you're going to have all these things that are saying, hey, you're going to feel bad. And then you go out and you feel amazing on a certain day. And it's like,
happened.
that doesn't make sense, but got to roll with it.
So tell us what your job is.
Yeah. So I work for the Miami Marlins in the R&D department doing data engineering.
So you got to look at some data then. You have to be like...
Or he's so sick of data from looking at it throughout the day that he doesn't.
What watch do you wear?
I wear a Garmin, one
Very
of the
good.
Phoenix.
One of the ones that can fire off nukes. One of the
pretty much, It's got all the
cool.
bells and whistles. Yeah. So I mean, it's like 6 years old at this point, so I don't know. It might have aged out.
Do you look at things like HRV and that sort of thing? Are you like putting things in a spreadsheet? Are you just leaving it all to your coach?
I'm leaving it all to my coach. Yeah, I think
it's music to Katelyn's ears.
Trust us.
Hire coaches, folks. Hire coaches.
Yes.
And I think for me, sort of, you know, talking about work outside of running, one of the things that, I mean, as talked about earlier too, it's like running is such a mental thing that for me, there's only so much mental energy I want to put towards running outside of sort of, you know, lacing up my shoes and going out and doing the workouts. And so again, having the luxury of having someone who can think about my training, it goes a long way. But yeah, personally, I don't do a lot of sort of diving into the data just because it's hard enough as it is. So trying to see those patterns and figure things out on my own, I'm happy to have someone who can do that for me.
You work in an industry for this is a multi-billion-dollar sport, and you see this across the major team sports where there's a lot of money at stake, and there's very deep analytics being used. You look at prospects in baseball and that sort of thing. Where do you think running is at with this? Like on an elite level, as an elite athlete, where do you think running is at by comparison to, say, Major League Baseball?
I mean, you bring up a great point. I think there could be a lot of opportunity there. I think one reason why baseball, football, basketball, all these other sports have sort of a leg up is because they have so much more information, specifically when you think about sort of player tracking from high frame rate video cameras that are at all of their venues, even for, high school, college level athletes. Unfortunately, we don't have that rolling around a 10K cross country course, even at the NCAA level. So I think,
but maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future, drones, right? I got a lot of there is a lot of opportunity to get similar information. I mean, I think the framework to take, runner tracking, look at the biomechanics, get information about sort of their training, all that sort of stuff to figure out who's going to be sort of an elite runner one day. It's definitely there, but again, I think we just need more data on it. Like that's always this. It's sort of a classic thing to say, but there's just always a need for more.
Yeah, I find it interesting that like you look at like a company like the nutrition company Morton that's recently been putting a lot of effort in at least signaling via social media channels that it's doing a lot of research with its athletes, with its like Sebastian Sawe, who just ran, I think, maybe sneaky one of the greatest marathons of all time in Berlin, winning the Berlin Marathon because it was so hot and he performed so well. He ran 2:02. Yeah. And Morton was doing a lot of work with him on nailing hydration and nutrition in advance of that race. And it seems to have panned out well. So I imagine there's probably there's just so much still to explore with running.
Definitely. Yeah. And we talked about glucose monitors earlier, and I know that's another big thing as well, right? Is having more information about exactly sort of how best we can describe a person's energy levels at any point in the race. That's a really, really useful thing because up until now, we just didn't really have that. You can kind of look at a guy and go, I don't know, he's looking a little tired now, but you don't really have all the information of sort of exactly what it is. And obviously with running too, there's so much that could have happened in the 3 weeks leading up to a race that you might not account for if all you're doing is paying attention to what they took in on race day. And so, so I think having that information is going to be something that can offer a lot of insights.
So will there be this 0 to 1 moment in the elite athlete community where people collectively decide, okay, now I'm going to completely pay attention to all this stuff and become incredibly dialed into all of it?
I don't know if it would ever be a 0 to 1 moment. I think it probably would take, there might be a tipping point, and I think you might have to see a number of athletes, both men and women, sort of have a lot of success paying a lot of attention to it before everyone goes, oh shoot, that's something that I should really start doing now. Like put one to one together and get
we
two.
Did see 2 big jumps in the last 10 years. We saw it with super shoes, and then we saw it with, not to give Morton another, they don't need any more
they don't need our help.
They do not need our help.
No.
But with Morton and Morton like hydrogel technology and taking way more attention on how you focus on nutrition during the race, right? Because that was something like 10 years ago, people didn't really think too much about. It was like, oh, just take a couple gels. And now it's like bottle stations are really important for elite athletes, but also for us mere mortals as well. Not bottle stations. We don't get those.
What are you using? What do you use?
I like to use Science in Sport. What's the brand? SIS. I really like their stuff. I think they're great. Similarly, they have they give a lot of information about sort of why they make certain decisions and sort of what goes into sort of crafting their gels. And they also, just taste good and sit well. And that's a big thing.
That's
I think,
the most important thing. As long as they sit well, it's fine.
You're opening the nerd floodgates here. What shoes are you wearing tomorrow?
Ooh, I'm going to wear the new Brooks Hyperion Elite 5s. So I like them a lot.
Yeah. Pink and blue?
Pink and blue, yeah.
Oh, nice.
They'll stand out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Are you involved in the R&D aspect of the shoes? Because you're a Brooks athlete, obviously. So
yeah, they do a great job of keeping us in the loop with sending us prototypes to test. We'll go and test in the lab as well to sort of get some information that is beyond just the, oh wow, these shoes feel really good, and send them a text saying that they can actually get some information about exactly sort of how much better we might perform relative to some sort of control or previous iteration of the shoe. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really helpful. It gives us all a lot of confidence knowing that when a new shoe comes out, that it's the best possible version that it could be.
Last one for you here. New York, for everyone who is running it on Sunday, what are you reminding yourself at the start line that you'd like to share with everybody else about how to approach this damned race?
I would say more than anything, just feed off the energy. I mean, other than having almost 60,000 other people on the course with you running it, like it's just, I mean, there's no other race that I've run or been to myself that has the number of spectators for as much of it as possible. And there are moments where sometimes you have to sort of take a step back and, restrain yourself because you might get a little too excited with how much cheering there is. But I mean, it's just a nonstop sort of flow of energy into the system to be able to sort of have all those spectators giving you a cheer.
I think you're going to even split again, man.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe negative. Maybe
negative.
negative.
Oh, now you're showing off. Now you're showing off. All right, Colin Bennie, thank you so much for joining us. We can just pivot right into questions. Does anybody have a question for either Colin or Bill? They can predict your future. They can tell you how to run the second half of a marathon. I'll repeat it for the recording. You got a full-time job. How do you balance that? Is it a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, luckily my work is fully remote, so that offers a little bit of flexibility in terms of being able to, not having to deal with a commute on top of everything else. My fiance also is a runner, so she gets the running aspect as well. That helps. Also gives me company for most of my runs, which is great. But yeah, it is tough. I mean, there are definitely certain days where it's a grind to run and then work and then run again or anything like that. But I think what helps me is being able to sort of like I see both the running and the job as sort of a great way of sort of compartmentalizing different parts of my life. And running's great when I do it, and then my work is great because it means I don't have to think about running when I'm working, and then vice versa. As soon as I'm tired of working for the day, I get to go for another run, and sort of having the opportunity, especially with the running, to know that it's something that I'm choosing to do and I get to do. I feel like that is it's been really nice for me.
Fair question, because peak mileage week this build?
Ooh, I think 115. So it was a good one.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's
a lot of miles.
My Canadian brain is at 185 kilometers.
Yes,
that's
there
right.
you go. That's right.
Yeah.
180.
That's pretty good. So, question: what is we're on the eve of the New York City Marathon. What does your night look like tonight?
Routine.
Tequila shots.
There's this really good bar called the Canuck where you can go watch the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
That's
there
right.
you go.
Come with Alex and I.
Yeah, just Canadian beers on tap. Molson, is that Canadian?
Molson, yes, very good. Very good. Yes.
The one beer.
Yeah, definitely low key. I'm not picky when it comes to like the night before meal, but it's also super easy to just go with pasta or something. Again, that sits well. It's a very sort of important thing. Probably try to watch as much of the World Series Game 7 as possible. We'll see how long I can last. It is an early wake up tomorrow, but yeah, just try to sort of relax and again enjoy the moment as much as possible.
So, a question about getting your sort of ideal balance of having a healthy racing weight.
Yeah, I mean, I think as with, all the numbers and data that we're talking about, I try to not think too much about that. Weight's obviously just something that is challenging as well, because more than anything, we just need to stay healthy. I don't do anything. I haven't done any DEXA scans or anything like that. More than anything, I think you got to find that balance of just making sure you have enough energy and that you are staying healthy. And more than anything, I think a lot of times if you're feeling slow, sluggish, tired more than you'd expect, it probably means you need to eat more. And, you know, you got to make sure you eat the right things. But again, that's a little bit different for everyone. And so it's always hard because there is no one right answer for something like this, but it's kind of just figuring out sort of what allows you to be the healthiest on race day.
Mr. Burfoot, no pressure. A legend's asking you a question.
Just a legend.
Colin, you're an elite runner by any standard and have been for a number of years recently. Congratulations. And yet there are people in this field tomorrow who are maybe going to be a mile ahead of you at the finish line. How do you understand that? What is the difference?
So Ambi is trolling you and saying that there's going to be elite runners that are even ahead of you. How do you handle that? Just kidding, Ambi.
It's, you know, in the ideal world, no one's going to be ahead of me, but we can't say that for sure. But I will. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I think it's a great point because even at the elite level, running still comes down to sort of, you know, everyone has their own race and their own definition of success. And I think for me, you know, if my time and place are close to what I was, or even just one of them is close to what I was expecting going into race day, and I can hang my hat on it and say that was a good day for me, or even just get across the finish line and know I gave every ounce of what I had for this day and this race, that's enough. And sometimes if it doesn't go well, I've had plenty of races that don't go to plan and I don't perform the way I want. And, you know, the first few hours, first few days, I'm feeling sorry for myself. But then, yeah, I do think back and go, all right, well, I had nothing else to give. So I have to be proud of that. And I wish I was a mile ahead of where I was at the finish. But at the same time, you know, that was just all I had.
In the back. Oh, a spicy Brooks question? Spicy seems dangerous. Go on. He's giving you anxiety. Let's see how media trained you are. And question about Brooks Super Shoes. Go.
I mean, I think they're already there.
There you go.
I'm shocked. I'm a little surprised that they get left off the list if they do. I mean, I think their shoes are phenomenal. I think, you know, one thing, talking about having been part of the testing process and working with the Footwear team, you know, their priority is making sure we show up on the start line as well equipped as everyone else in the field. And, you know, obviously there were a few years for pretty much every company other than Nike where that wasn't the case, but that thought never crossed my mind now. You know, I think getting on the start line, I'm as confident in what's on my feet than anyone else in the field could be. Yeah, I don't know why they get left off the list. I don't think they should. If they would get my vote for being number one.
So when you run an even or negative split and get in the top 10 tomorrow, that's your answer.
That's my answer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, proof is in the pudding.
Any other questions for Colin? We want you to sort of show us the hand here. What's your goal for tomorrow, and how do you how do you track that in race?
Yeah, you know, goal for any of these majors is, you know, sort of if I can compete, be in the top 10, that'd be fantastic. I ran well here last year. If I can run faster than I did last year, that's something that would be amazing. So, you know, I'm going out with sort of that 2:11, sub 2:11 kind of a time in mind. Again, it's not an easy course. The race doesn't always go to plan in terms of how it gets taken out for how fast it is. So kind of got to play it by ear. New York, I think, is great if I remember, because they do have clocks at every mile. So it's super easy. Like it's not, I don't have to look down at my wrist every now and then to sort of track it. But again, you know, as sort of as I said, there's a lot of moving pieces in the marathon, and I feel like being able to be flexible and not go, okay, I'm slower than I was expecting to be at this point, I have to pick it up even though I don't feel good. I feel like it's a lot better to sort of be a little more honest with yourself and sort of give yourself the chance to sort of make sure that you don't dig yourself a hole before you want to.
See, even the elites have ABC.
Yeah.
Right?
ABC?
ABC goals.
Oh, ABC goals.
Yeah,
yes.
ABC goals.
Oh, that was like a medical condition.
No. A, B, and C goals.
I have a question for Bill. It just came to mind here. What's the craziest, kind of zaniest tech idea you've encountered in the last couple of years with regards to the marathon or running overall? Like a wild one that you've encountered. I mean, you sort of already mentioned a wild one, which is those pods, the water pods that I now want in my life.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
How far does this reach? Sorry, I'm going to squeeze in here. So probably the wildest one for me when I think about it is there's this technology called nanotechnology or nanobots. And so imagine all of the wearable data, right? We talked about a lot of data. Imagine all of that going inside your body. So you have these nanobots swimming around in your bloodstream and monitoring things at the molecular level.
That sounds gross.
That's pretty zany.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my original questions because I had heard what you said with Alex about, no, now we're not going to wear the technology. It's going to be inside you. And I was like
my shirt's going to be inside
am I going to have
me.
a chip? Like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
Katelyn came at me panicked this morning.
I
So
did.
I listened to this podcast, and did I hear this correctly? Where is it going?
Where? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that stuff gets pretty wild.
And that stuff's in development.
It is in development. Yeah.
Because it's been nanotechnology has been talked about for a long time, and it's kind of a buzzy thing. I always say 10 years ago. I have no idea if it was 10
Yeah.
or 12 or 15.
10 years ago was the iPod Nano, I think
That's
that's what
right.
you're
That's the one. Yes, yes. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was like a buzzy term for a while, and then of course, wearables, VR, AR, sort of during the pandemic, and now AI.
Yeah.
Driverless autonomous vehicles, but all these things do end up happening, right?
Well, and one of the really interesting things about a lot of these technologies, and AI is a great example of it, but we've talked about it for a long time, which is this notion of the exponential gap, right? And so technologies tend to move along in pretty small and uninteresting ways for a really long time, and you're like, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. And then all of a sudden they hit this inflection point and they go nonlinear. And that's really what happened with artificial intelligence back in November of 2022. I mean, it's not a new technology. It's been worked on for decades and decades, but it hit that inflection point and now it's just taken over the world. And so, and the challenge with that is, business leaders and, just people trying to navigate all of this is we tend to think in a very linear fashion. And so trying to make sure that we're watching these technologies to deal with that exponential curve. And so is nanotechnology a long ways away? Probably so, because there's a lot of other hurdles that we're going to need to come over, FDA approval, and they're not just going to let people go off and start doing that. But a lot of times these things kind of move along in small and uninteresting ways, and then all of a sudden they don't, and there it is.
So Colin won't be ingesting tiny bots anytime soon.
But Michael's kid might when he's a marathoner.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
That's so creepy.
Exactly.
Any other questions? What makes Colin's coach great? This is a great opportunity here, and we can just clip this and send it to your coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good Christmas present for him. I mean, I think the biggest thing is sort of two-way trust. I'm working with the same coach who coached me through college, so I've been with him since 2013 now, so 12 years. And I think he instilled a lot of confidence in me before I even put on a Syracuse uniform, and being able to sort of have that faith that he could take me from, just a high school runner to someone who could compete at the college level. And then he went out and actually did it. Obviously that was sort of a pretty strong case of why I should continue to trust him and feel like his training is also just right for me. And he's unwavering as well, and I think that's something that's important, especially in this time, to sort of have this sort of approach to training, approach to running, that you can sort of believe in and sort of say, hey, this is what's going to have you ready on race day. That meant a lot to me because, as I said, I think marathon especially is sort of all about consistency, and having a coach who can sort of embody that is really important to me.
Any final questions?
See one at the back here.
Wearing a Yankees cap. Come on. I guess we are in New York. It's acceptable.
Yeah, that is fair.
It's passable.
Are you talking about sort of new technology in general or the nanotechnology?
So what will be the bottleneck?
Yeah, so I guess I'm a consultant, so the answer is it depends. That's always our answer. But it really kind of depends on the individual technology. So for something like nanotech, there is sort of the research and development part of that. That's still a hurdle, right? It's not there today. But then you're going to have this really big hurdle that is FDA approval. So in that particular instance, I think there's a number of hurdles. But there's other technologies like artificial intelligence where from a regulatory perspective, we're sort of all gas and no brake right now. And so that's really fun. More about R&D. For better or for worse, that's kind of, where we are. And so I think it just sort of depends on the particular technology and, how much, regulatory bodies care about it or don't care about it in terms of slowing it down or really studying it. So there was one other thing that I wanted to bring up. You were talking, Alex, earlier about, or asking Colin about, it seems like it's the amateur athletes that use all of this wearable technology, and it's really the elite athletes that are like, I'm good, Mm-hmm. I think the reason for that is that as a new runner, as an amateur runner, you kind of don't know how you're supposed to feel. You just don't have a lot of experience, right? So you're like,
great point.
Am I working hard? Am I not working hard? Do I feel tired? Am I supposed to feel tired? Like you're just asking yourself all of these questions. And I think there's a tendency to be like, well, the data will give me the answer, right? And so I was actually doing a talk with Des Linden a few weeks ago, and we were talking about this balance of using technology and just sort of blindly following the technology and listening to your body. And I think one of the real benefits that she has as an experienced runner, and like you, Colin, is you just have enough miles under your feet to kind of know how you're feeling and to say, I know that my rest and recovery monitor is telling me I'm ready to go today, but I'm just not feeling it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm coming down with a cold or who knows what. So I'm just going to go easy today, or I'm going to take a day off. Whereas the sort of lower level or newer amateur just, they're like, it says I'm rested, I'm going to go for it, So
Right.
I think there's that aspect of it, is just getting experience.
And even at the sub-elite level, there's this feeling that as soon as an AI-powered thing gives you advice that to be wrong, you're quick to shove it aside. Like I used the Strava AI coach for a while, which was like,
Oh, no.
I did a test on the Strava AI coach because I realized that it would just take words from my title when it was in the very early stages and then just regurgitate a sentence my way. Good job, Alex. So I did this test where I wrote one, said, nice 30-mile run in Dubai today. It was like a 10-mile run in Toronto. And the Strava thing was like, well done, despite being in a warmer climate than usual in Dubai. I was like, are you kidding me? But I think if there's one thing that I could pull from our two conversations at this point, and also from a conversation with Colin, is that it's very exciting to think that at the elite level, eventually tech may be sophisticated enough so that even the best runners in the world can really pull from that and really benefit from that. And it makes me think that our hobby horse is discussing who's ever going to break the 2-hour marathon.
Yep.
We asked Eliud Kipchoge this yesterday, by the way. He did not want to answer. I said, I think it's John Career. He said, maybe.
There are so many runners. There are so many. He
likes to
said,
stay positive.
That
yeah.
was it. So many runners. Who
So many
knows?
runners.
But I think that this might eventually be the answer to or maybe the end of our inquiry of questions, that like maybe someday we'll get a 159 and tech will play a huge part of that. And maybe it'll be Colin.
You never know. All right. We'd like to thank our special guests, Bill Quinn and Colin Bennie. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Hang out with us. Should I plug the newsletter and make sure you subscribe to? I feel like we're doing a podcast.
Yes, we're here.
episode,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We are doing a live watch along show tomorrow. Throughout the marathon, we go on at 8:00 Eastern time on our YouTube channel. We are hopefully a beneficial second screen experience to watching the live stream. Provide our insights as well. So if you
want to hear us
decide
nerd
not
out?
to run the marathon tomorrow and want to watch on YouTube, we'll be there for you. Thank you everybody for coming out, and we'll talk next week.
Yes.